The Spotlight, shining a light on podcasts and videos that have caught our attention.
Hi and welcome to The Spotlight. I'm Jen Spiker and today I have something special to share with you. Since October 7, 2023, the eyes of the world have been focused on Israel. Ian and Mandy Worby have just returned from a Christians for Israel solidarity tour to the Holy Land. They were deeply impacted by what they saw, and over 3 days we're listening to an emotional conversation that 2020's Andrew McLennan had with Mandy after she arrived back at Vision HQ.
The Spotlight with Jen Spiker.
Let's get back to the attacks on October 7th because, again, I just thought when you were telling all those stories, I thought, Britain, fought a war in the Second War against the Nazis who were just evil as well. I think you'd struggle to find that many British civilians who suffered the sort of deaths that these Israeli civilians suffered in one day in that 6 years of the Second World War. Most British civilians, they were bombed from the skies, but they weren't subjected to this sort of abuse and torture of men and civilian men, women and children, even babies. It's just horrible. Now, you did go to the site of that Nova Music Festival.
Oh, I did, yeah.
Where there was hundreds of just young people. And in Australia, we have music festivals here all the time. Our young people attend these sort of things where you just go to listen to the music and dance and maybe even do worse than that morally. But, it's just a thing that young people go to. Tell us what you saw when you went to the site of that music festival.
Okay, so first of all, just a little bit of background on that particular festival, because once we'd left the festival and we went and travelled elsewhere and we talked to different people, we couldn't help but ask the question, why was it held where it was, so close to the border?
So it was on next to the border of Gaza,
It was very close to the border.
On a farm or something, wasn't it?
It was just a big open paddock, right? A big open natural land. And when we went there, I was thinking, this could be anywhere in the Aussie bush, Gum trees everywhere. It just felt so much like home. And we would basically, tens of thousands of Gazans were permitted to come into Israel every day, right? To work, to learn, we met some of the Israelis in the kibbutzim who literally would use their own vehicle and their own money to take Gazans to Israeli hospitals for treatment that they couldn't get in Israel.
Because the Israeli hospitals, for those that don't know, are so much better than the hospitals.
They're remarkable.
In Gaza.
They're remarkable.
Yeah, world class.
Absolutely. Yeah. So they were allowed to come in and they would do art exhibitions with them. They were doing employed, earning much better money. And so the most of the kibbutzim down on the Gaza envelope, most of them are quite hard left peaceniks.
Yeah.
And they really, 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 their whole ideological mindset is our brothers and sisters in Gaza, we can be friends with them, we can live with them, we'll build relationship with them. And that's what they were doing.
And they showed a lot of love, didn't they?
Masses.
For a long period of time because they believed in love. They believed in being nice, like you said, and just creating community. And of those kibbutz, I believe, are almost like a modern communistic ideal society where everyone shared everything. And
it's all about the whole equality, the whole equal thing.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah. I understand that's their mindset. But that was the reason the festival was held there. Because these young people, they said they held the festival so close to Gaza because they wanted it to be close enough for their Gazan compatriots to be able to say, one day we want to be able to dance with you.
Oh, man.
Right? We want peace with you. We want to be able to dance with you. Now, when the Hamas leadership, because they were salivating at the thought that there was all these young people at a festival so close, that's why they chose that day. It was on Simchat Torah, which is a very holy day in the Jewish calendar. It was a Shabbat. It was straight after the was it the Feast of Tabernacles? I'm just trying to think. It was straight after Tabernacles, and then there's this festival. It was what do they call it? A target-rich environment. Yeah. That's what they did.
So they literally targeted that day because of the festival, because it was so close to the border.
That was the final clincher, the deciding factor. Yeah, because I think they were waiting for a new upcoming holiday. But when the youth festival, music festival, that was like too good. They could not resist it. All these young people, and their defences were down. They were dancing. There was music. It was a festival.
Yeah.
Right?
And to be fair, some of them were drunk and on drugs. I've listened to the survivor accounts, and some of the guys who were, as all young Israeli men and women are, trained in the military for at least 2 years, and some of them even admitted they were so wasted that they couldn't do anything. Even if they'd had a gun, they wouldn't be able to fight. They were just out of it.
Exactly. It was, and in that regard, I mean, you got to, let people go, but they're Israelis, they're Jews, they should be holy. Listen, 70% of the Israeli society is secular.
Yeah.
Okay. People, somebody said, but that's sinful. And I go, well, you know what? Israel is actually a very sinful nation, In fact, I'll tell you how sinful the Israelis are. They're almost as sinful as Australians. And they're almost as sinful as Americans. And they're almost as sinful as Britons and Scots and Scandinavians. They're people.
Yep.
They're people like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't think that it was okay for a terrorist organisation to come and invade our country and slaughter all the young people and then say, well, they were sinning after all.
I think the closest thing we could find in Australia is if there was a music festival at Byron Bay where everyone was just out of it and dancing and just having the time of their life, and they're all young, and some group of individuals turn up with guns and bombs and rocket launchers and literally just gun down and rape,
brutalised everybody.
Hundreds of them. I mean, that's what it would be like. That'd be like a Byron Bay Music Festival attacked, and hundreds of beautiful young men and women in the prime of their life murdered,
There's no
butchered.
excuse for what happened. No. There's no justification, but Israel's always treated differently. So you asked the question, what was it like when I got there? Well, obviously the area has been cleaned up, shall we say. It's been sanitised. There's no body bits. There's no blood. That's been cleaned up. As far as that is concerned, the Israelis will not leave that behind. You've talked to Zaka representatives who they will go in and they will get every tiny little piece, even blood on the ground, to give a proper sacred burial to each and every person. That doesn't get left behind. So it's sanitised. But there are memorials, and there are photographs, and there are ribbons, and there are plants and trees that are posted everywhere. Sorry. It's photographs of these people. And there were so many, Andrew. There were hundreds of these pictures. And I'm walking through, and I'm looking, I'm going, the scope.
Yeah.
They came over early in the morning when they were still waking up. It was out of, like it was a shock. There was confusion. There was the sirens because of the rockets, and then the coming over in the what do we call
those
them?
little paraglider things?
Paraglider things.
And they trained in those things.
And
too,
they were high above them, and they were just picking them off.
Yeah.
Like there was nowhere for them to hide. And then there was because there's bomb shelters everywhere in Israel. There was a bomb shelter, and I couldn't go in. I couldn't go into it. But these young people, they filled it to try to get protected. They were all killed because they just lobbed grenades inside, and it's really hard to describe. We hear the stories, but...
Yeah, and every one of those young people was someone's son or daughter or brother or sister or nephew or niece or grandson or granddaughter. They were human beings in the prime of life, looking forward to their careers, looking forward to their jobs,
the numbers of
maybe to start a business, and hundreds,
wasted. But the brutality for those that weren't just blown up or shot point blank, the savagery, and nobody wanted to believe it. But this is the mindset of the Hamas terrorists. Andrew, they took photos they strapped GoPros to their bodies and their heads so that they could take video of it and relive it and share it with the world, and they were joyful. And that was something that many of the journalists who saw that footage, that was something that they were horrified by, shocked by, that these people were so gleefully happy about what they were doing. And here's the other thing. We said, well, that was Hamas. Okay, I haven't watched that video footage. I can't. A lot of the images I can't look at because I can't get that stuff out of my head, and I can't sleep at night. But there are some images that I have seen that are not quite so savage. And I'm thinking there's dozens and dozens of people in this photo, and there's not one Hamas uniform. They were civilians. They were civilians. So we're being told, differentiate between the Hamas terrorists and the innocent civilians. There's video footage of Israeli citizens and dead bodies being dragged through Gaza, and the citizens are participating in the abuse. Now, I'm not saying every citizen. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But when we're told the citizens have nothing to do with it, it's only Hamas, I'm sorry, that is not true.
Well, there are survivor accounts, Mandy, from the music festival, because some of the kids did survive, who saw four-wheel drives full of Palestinian civilians crossing over and snatching hostages and stealing things. And so it definitely was more than just the Hamas-trained terrorists that crossed the border.
And I've seen those vehicles. I've walked through the car graveyard of only 400 of the 1,200 vehicles. There are some vehicles that we saw, I can't even tell you that it was a car. I saw four-wheel drives that the terrorists were in with the steel mount in the back that they had their machine guns attached to, where they stood there behind it literally mowing people down.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a good talker, but I don't have enough words to describe the horror.
On the Spotlight, Mandy Worby describes some of the tragic scenes she recently witnessed while on a solidarity tour with Christians for Israel. Next time, we'll hear more of the heartfelt stories that Mandy shared with 2020's Andrew McLennan. You can listen to the full conversation by tapping the podcast tab in the Free Vision app and searching 2020. Find out more about the work of Christians for Israel Australia at c4israel.com.au. That's the letter C, the number 4, israel.com.au. My name is Jen Spiker, and I look forward to joining you next time on The Spotlight as Mandy shares what motivated her to join the Solidarity Tour to Israel.
For more great podcasts and videos like the one featured today, check out vision.org.au or the Free Vision app.